Hello friends, this is Perla with Missionaries of God's Love in Tustin, California. Remember that when we start our prayers and meditations, it is important for us to want and to wish to find yourselves with God, because God only comes to you when you truly love and look for Him. So today, let's choose to be a follower of the Lord. Let's prepare ourselves for our encounter with God by opening our hearts and preparing our body and mind. Let's start today by sitting upright and our shoulders relaxed. Let's take a deep breath in as we fill ourselves with God's presence. Invite God and the Holy Spirit into your heart and soul. In today's meditation, we are going to talk about the only pleasure that lasts. The only pleasure, my friends, is the love of God. Let me explain. Is it not true that all of us, ever since we were born, have been hungry for different pleasures? Whether we are talking about one kind of pleasure or another, whether we have been aware of it or not, consciously or unconsciously, we are always seeking these pleasures. This goes for me, you, and the whole world. While we enter into different stages of our lives, we begin to seek different pleasures. Our likes and dislikes, and all our wishes are constantly changing. But none of that is ever taken away from our wishes to fulfill our pleasures. Naturally, there are pleasures that help us survive, like the pleasures of eating, sleeping, and reproducing. But it is also true that humanity has invented pleasures that are not natural. They are not a part of God's creation. And most of the time, they're very damaging and destructive, like artificial stimulants, the use of drugs, tobacco, alcohol, etc. All of this brings up many different wrongdoings, even just for searching those kinds of pleasures. The only constant in any pleasure, whether natural or artificial, is it never satisfies us. It never fills us. We will always want more and more. And some of us just don't want more. They look for variability, more intense pleasures, and as a result, they create self-destructive errors, like involving themselves in dangerous activities for the adrenaline, or taking narcotics, destroying their mind and health, ruining their lives and social relationships. Obviously, there are certain things that are not hurtful, like the drugs that your doctor prescribes can help aid in your health. However, we should never let ourselves trust that the only solution in our quest of pleasures is to fulfill these kinds of pleasures. Let's compare the quest for pleasures to the quest that the spiritual men and women of all time have experienced. Those that we call upon around the world that we may refer to as saints, the mystic, or illuminated, all of them have a common factor as well. Independently from whatever religion each pertains to, they all have renounced their innermost carnal pleasures that we all suffer from. We have heard them talk about things like fasting, penance, self-control, not eating meat. The question is, why do they do this to themselves? Why do they renounce something that gives them pleasure inside? The things that cause them pleasure, things so desired and very universal, why do they want to be different? The answer is simple, my friends. They have realized the great fallacy of the great lie, the false promise of happiness that satisfying pleasures gives us, that always leaves us hungry for more and more. That saying that if we become constant seekers of these pleasures, like many people are, we become slaves to the search of pleasures. We are no longer free. You will always be overly hungry and more. Like a drug addict, you are no longer free. You will always need more and more. Like an alcoholic, more and more. And the mystics and the saints, if they want something, it is to be free. Free to find the true root of happiness. Free to find the true love that we are all looking for in our hearts. The saints renounce these pleasures to be able to find the one true pleasure of life that does not enslave us but make us free. The only one that does not make us a slave to the pleasure, the only one that makes us more free, the only one that fills us and satisfies us, the only way that allows us to feel a serene satisfaction of love, humor, and grace. Of course, my friends, we are talking about the love that only God can give. Let's meditate, my friends. The only pleasure that lasts is God's. The rest are ephemeral. Reflect on your own pleasures. Look at what pleasures you have. Are you satisfied? Or are you always looking for more? Do they cause you freedom or enslavement when you search for more? And how do you feel when you find the joy and love from God? Freedom or enslavement? Compare and analyze the differences. Now, take the time you need for prayer and tell Him, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening."